here's another comment. I know I have changed. Does that sound like you?
Yes.
I'm not the same person I was a long time ago. I know I've changed. And I go, yes, you have changed, and you haven't changed. Right? There's that Catholic answer, both and. So we're going to talk about that in some upcoming slides. Wisdom, maturity, grace, education, training, experience, all those things have all shaped who you are. And it's moved your temperament in certain directions and shaped it, but it hasn't changed it. So there's more coming, but I love that you guys are hanging in here. So does anybody want to share what happened in your discussion, or how you feel about any of this? Yes, you did get it wrong, but I corrected you. And you took it with a very beautiful spirit and an open heart. So, thank you for that. What else?
Well, I got to say too that at first I was just all over it. I was like, oh yes, hold that one, cherry picking. But thanks to my friends here who pointed me in the direction that I'm
Sure, caller.
Yeah.
Okay, so she was all over the place. She could find herself in all four of them. And I tried to tell you ahead of time that is going to happen, because we can and we do go move in and out, but two are your inborn gifts that are quick and natural and automatic. And those are your strengths. And that's where you want to be functioning. I remember when I started out as a commercial real estate appraiser. Now, I'm sanguine, remember? Do you think math and numbers and lists and or of deep calculations of financial analyses is my thing? No, so I was overwhelmed, but I had to prove myself. So I struggled and struggled. And it was hard, and I was drained, and I was depressed. But then I found part of that business that suited me, my choleric. We love order. So I love to take columns of numbers and make sure they balanced. So I stayed away from the deep calculations that only the Melancholy should be doing. And I could do them okay, but I realized my strength was over in this area where I could bring order out of chaos. And I shone, and I made money, and it was good. So ultimately, that's what we want to do. Find what your natural strengths are and work in those. Does anybody else want to share? Yes.
I wish I would have learned this 20 years ago, because it would help me deal with people today,
It would help you deal, if you learned this earlier, it would help her
Yes.
deal with people. Like,
Yes.
where do you work?
The Veterans Home in Jennings.
The Veterans Home in Jennings? So, and what do you do there?
I'm the secretary.
And so you would have like angry people coming in and pounding on your desk and making demands?
All kinds of different things.
Yeah. No, it is, it's very helpful.
Dementia ones, the Alzheimer people and stuff, it helps.
Right, and even with disease and like Alzheimer's and everything, your temperament doesn't go away. It gets amplified. Remember we talked yesterday about Hippocrates. He was dealing with sick people. He was the father of modern medicine. And people who have disease, a lot of their pretenses are stripped away. And what you see is what you get. Anyway, that's a whole nother subject. Anybody else want to add, comment? Are you confused, more than confused than ever? Okay, good.
Well, I have a question too. How do you, like if you think you're a certain temperament, but it's not the God-given temperament, how do you get in touch with that temperament? Like your God, because over time you change, right?
Wait a minute. Did I just say over time you don't change?
I might have been in here and didn't hear that.
Okay, so the question is, how do you know if you see yourself as a temperament, but it might not be the God-given temperament? How do you get in touch with the God-given temperament? That's exactly what we're here to find out. So I'm telling you, look at all the words. Don't cherry pick. Don't focus in on one or two and go, think about when you were younger. Don't think so much about how you are at work or at home maybe, but more global. Ask your friends, and then, and this is a process. After today, you hopefully still process this. Ask our Lord to reveal any fears that you have of being a certain temperament. Is there a stigma that comes with it? And there's usually a fear. I don't want to be that. I'm this. Okay, maybe. So again, ask the Lord for humility and openness, because I thought when I was younger, I wanted to be like my mom. I thought I was phlegmatic, melancholy. And I tried really hard to be melancholy. And I'm not. And I never will be. And I went through a period of discouragement and shame because I wasn't. But then when I discovered my God-given temperament, and I needed mentoring, I needed help, needed somebody to say, this is why it's good to be sanguine. This is what's beautiful about being sanguine. And even one person told me, there's really only two temperaments. Sanguines and sanguine wannabes. I like that too. And it's not even true, but that's the thing about sanguines, right? And phlegmatics as well. Remember, the phlegmatics and sanguines are similar. We just want it light and easy. We want it light and easy. And that's sometimes a very good thing and sometimes not. So trust me, you are choleric melancholy.
I think so too.
And the fact that she automatically, when I said that, looked right at her eyes, her body responded with a guttural laugh. You know, she laughed automatically. Introverts don't do that. That was your sanguine going, right on, baby.
No, choleric.
So you are. You're large and in charge. But you're also kind and gentle and sensitive because your melancholy tempers it. And mother-in-law is over here nodding. Okay. So that's your God-given temperament. Take it and run with it. Anybody else? Yes?
Can you be melancholy and phlegmatic at the same time?
Yes, that's double introvert. You can be, we'll go over it again. You can't be the diagonals. Not on this one. This one's a different thing. Let's go back. Anybody else before we get back into our material?
Now I can see why my husband drives me crazy sometimes, because he's so sanguine, and when I'm trying to be serious, and he makes a joke out of everything, and I'm like, really be serious for once, you know?
I love that. Now there's a beautiful melancholy sanguine head buddy. She's trying to be serious and he's making a joke all the time. And why do we make jokes? Because we don't want to deal with difficult things. So can't you just laugh and go away? That's what he's saying, and that's why it bothers you.
And he has a track home business, and he's all the time saying, you don't wanna video me? And I'm like, I've seen you dig ditches 100 times. He wants the attention, you know, like, are you digging ditches out of it?
Okay, that's another big clue. That's really good. He's sanguine, and he wants her to take videos of him digging ditches.
It's the same thing.
Okay, and then so that's a weakness, because it's about, you know, me,
Attention, yeah.
right, attention, okay. The interior work that we do as Catholics is we already know we are valued and loved and beautiful and important as men or women, and that we're a beloved son or daughter of the Most High King. We have our place, we're valued no matter what others think of us. That needs to be the source of our identity. And if we're looking for others as a sanguine to love me, hug me, touch me, make videos of me, we need to do interior work. So the request for attention isn't bad in itself, but overboard means there's something missing here that needs to be worked on. And same thing, if the opposite melancholy, trying to make everything perfect and make everything perfect and everybody be perfect because then we'll be okay, there's a fear there. And there's some interior work that needs to be done. Okay, good stuff. This is light and fun, but it's also very deep and meaningful. Okay, dramatic, down to earth. Let's keep going. Let's look at the natural combinations. So every temperament has an opposite. What's the opposite of sanguine?
Melancholy.
Good. What's the opposite of phlegmatic? Okay, good. So each temperament has an opposite, just like we talked about last night. North cannot also be south. But north can be northwest or northeast. Look how it can go one way or the other. South can be southwest or southeast. So the same with the four temperaments. Part of God's pattern. Sanguine can be choleric, sanguine and choleric, or sanguine and phlegmatic, which is the green one to the left. Anything that touches it, but not opposite. So let's go counterclockwise. You can be sanguine and phlegmatic. That means you're so easygoing. You are the most kind, gentle, loving, sweet, adorable one who never gets anything done. You can also be a phlegmatic melancholy. Those are the two introverts. Kind, gentle, stable, thoughtful, careful, purposeful, and also deep and enduring and loyal and passionate and creative. You can be melancholy, choleric, passionate, creative, deep, enduring, loyal, hardworking, take charge, fearless, sees the big picture. And back again to choleric, sanguine, which is what I am. The sanguine choleric says, we're going to work really hard, but we're going to have a lot of fun. The choleric melancholy says, we're going to work really hard, and we're going to try for perfection. The melancholy phlegmatic says, we're going to be beautiful and perfect, but not if it kills us. Right? And the phlegmatic sanguine says, life is good, this is fun, but please don't ask me to do any work. But I will if I have to. So together the four temperaments form a complete image of God in the visible world. God is large and in charge. He's passionate, tender, loyal, mysterious, complex. He's gentle, he's kind, he's patient, he's loving. He's joyful, delightful. He delights in us. He brings sparkles of light and life to the world. So again, these four temperaments are all little mirrored reflections of something of the beauty of God himself. And we're meant to complement each other, not conflict. The reason we have conflict is because there's interior work that needs to be done separate from the temperaments. And that's our relationship with God, our fear levels, our maturity levels, that interior work. We bring out the best in each other. And here, my favorite picture that we looked at yesterday with the theology of the body. I just love this, and I could just stare at this forever and see so many nuances in this. These are the temperaments. To be able to trust each other and have worked with each other and respect each other's different role in the dance. But to know together, you bring something beautiful out of each other. And you work together, you flow together, you bring beauty into the world together. It requires understanding and trust. And how did these dancers get to this point? Lots of practice. Lots of stepping on each other's toes. Lots of doing it again and again. And that's when we finally get it right. So let's look at the four combinations. You can be a sanguine and choleric. So really, with the four temperaments, you're not a temperament. You're always a combination of two. Because one is how fast and one is how long and enduring. The natural natural combinations are sanguine and choleric, choleric and melancholy, melancholy phlegmatic, phlegmatic and sanguine. Now let's look at the similarities that we talked about. Sanguine and phlegmatic. One's an extrovert, one's an introvert. They're both light and easy. Imperfection, can't leave it to those other temperaments. They resist hard work. Now, is that a bad thing? What answer have I been telling you since yesterday?
Yes and no.
Yes and
Good
no.
girl, yes and no. Okay. They ignore or minimize problems. Again, that can be good or bad, doesn't matter. They want things to be fun and peaceful and light. They are both soft and sweet and kind, and they don't get much done. And sometimes that's okay. Let's take a look at the choleric and melancholy, an introvert and an extrovert, and see how they're similar. They're both intense and driven. Even though those of you in here, and I'm going to pick again on you, you have an intensity in you, but it's tempered by the softness of the phlegmatic. Your melancholy has an intensity, and it's tempered by the softness of the phlegmatic. But now we're back to the choleric and melancholy. God help anybody who's married to a choleric melancholy who's out of control and not mature, because they are hard to live with. They're hard driving, and they want you to be perfect all the time, and they are unforgiving, and they never forget. Am I wrong?
No.
And yet, the beautiful thing about being both choleric and melancholy is that intensity and that drive. You guys save the world. You bail us out of trouble that we get ourselves into. You have the energy and the focus and the big picture to take care of things that other people can't take care of. So it all comes with a price. There's the good and the bad and the ugly, but no bipolar. The choleric and melancholy are both highly critical. Why? Remember, the choleric wants order, and the melancholy wants perfection. I'm not a melancholy. I don't need you to be perfect. But if you're not in order, I will bark an order at you. They drive themselves and they drive others. They're very interiorly driven. Choleric and melancholy make good entrepreneurs. The others aren't as driven, self-driven, and they need a good support system to help them stay there. They both focus on solving problems, but the melancholy can get bogged down in the depth and the complexity of it. The choleric will naturally go, you know what? Maybe this isn't a big enough problem for us to be spending this much time on it. They want things right, if not perfect, and they are more often uptight than the other two light temperaments, which is the sanguine and the phlegmatic. They can handle a lot at once. And it starts when we're babies. You can see in your little kids the furrowed brow and the intensity. You usually have a melancholy or a choleric. That intensity is a clue. The babies that are just sweet and gurgly and bubbly, they're probably phlegmatic. They're just easygoing, and if any of you have a child that was an absolute delight their entire life and one that was just a problem from day one, there's nothing wrong with your kids. It's a temperament issue. And if we don't understand, remember we talked about the emotional needs, if we don't understand what their deepest emotional needs are and we don't know how to help them get those needs met, we're going to have problems. Oh, I forgot to read the thing. Sanguines have more energy and are more transparent than the phlegmatic, even though they're dissimilar. Remember, one's an extrovert and one's an introvert. And the cholerics also have more energy and are more transparent. Cholerics and sanguines almost don't care what anybody thinks about them. We just want you to do what we want you to do. Let's look at the other similarities between the two extroverts. That's why a lot of people who are choleric think they're sanguine, or sanguine think they're choleric. They're both high energy, fast moving. They rush into things. They don't stop and think first, generally. They're quick to interact. They're sometimes very insensitive to others. Now, they race nonstop and then they crash. Okay, why do you think sanguines and cholerics, why do you think the extroverts are insensitive?
They've got things that stop you.
Remember their emotional needs and what they like. What is a choleric? Love, love, love.
Order.
Work and order. Is there a person involved in that?
No.
What is sanguines like?
Fun.
Easy and fun. Is there a person involved in that? The introverts tend to be observant and connected and sensitive and compassionate more quickly than the extroverts. Doesn't mean the extroverts can't be. They just have to be more aware of it and work a little harder at it because they get distracted by other things. So again, I'm getting into, I don't want to get too complex here, but I want you to know there's more than just these four labels. The phlegmatic and the melancholy, the two introverts, are slower moving and lower energy. Is that a bad thing?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Good, good, good. It depends on the situation. They're cautious and guarded. They hold their cards close to the vest. They check things out first. They're sensitive and caring. They get overwhelmed and they freeze up in certain situations. High energy children, studious, perfect little children. Okay, let's look at some common complaints. Here's what the sanguine and the melancholy, these are the two opposites. The sanguine looks at the serious melancholy and goes, you're so depressing. This is you and your husband, right? And the melancholy goes, you're way too bubbly, you're too silly, right? You always see the negative. You always think it's no big deal. You worry too much. Look around. Let's buy this. You spend like a drunken sailor. You criticize me all the time. Someone needs to. Let's have some fun. No, let's get serious. So again, I'm over-exaggerating. I do want to elicit a laugh out of this, but I also want you to see the truth in it. We look at each other and say, what is wrong with you? You need to be more like me. Instead of appreciating the differences and honoring them. Did I do that too soon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good chat.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
don't apologize for being a choleric. Never let them see your weak spot. Okay, let's look at the other two opposites. The phlegmatic, the easygoing, peaceful one, and the hard-driving, steamroller choleric. You're too pushy. Hurry up, get moving. Why do we always have to be early? You're always late. If you're phlegmatic, would you admit to always being pretty much late or struggling with it? I see some nodding hands. Do you have to race around like a maniac all the time? Can't you handle more than one thing at a time? Can you tone it down? Can you please speak up? Get off my back, get off your butt. So guess who I married? The exact opposite. But when we were dating, I taught him the temperaments and he loved it. He saw the truth of it and he said the same thing like most of you. Why didn't I know this earlier? It would have helped me with the kids, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so we know, we're so aware of how we are, even though when we do this, we recognize if it's really an issue or if it's a temperament thing that we just have forgotten about. It's really, really good. This is really great for marriage. If both parties are interested in this and get it, you're way ahead of the game. So here's a test. Firemen and policemen, are they choleric, take charge, or they're peaceful, phlegmatic? Wrong. That was a good guess. Okay, here's the beauty of the phlegmatic. The house is on fire, the kids are screaming, the woman is screaming, the man is screaming, everybody's running around, it's utter chaos, it's overwhelming. The choleric is going, move, move, move. The sanguine's going, ah, 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 right? It's the peaceful phlegmatic that goes, I gotta save. And they take their equipment, they're calm, they're steady, they're ordered, they're unruffled, they move in, they take care of this, they bind up the wounds, they put out the fire, and they go back to the fire station or the police station. And they drink beer and they collapse. Right?
Yeah.
I remember I have stepsons, and I've been divorced, remarried. Yes, I did get my annulment. And the visitation order was not being enforced. It was our weekend to have the kids, and she refused. So we had learned that you don't fight, you don't scream, you don't yell, you don't threaten. You get your court order and you call the police and you say, can you help us get the children for the weekend? Anybody been in a divorce step-parenting situation? And so the police showed up. Now, I'm the choleric, so I'm like, right? My husband, the peaceful phlegmatic, is going, oh God, I hate this, I'm gonna pay the price forever, but you know. So the policeman comes, and I thought he would go, okay, let's go get the kids. No, he goes, ma'am, shut up, go sit over there, you and your husband, stay over there and stay out of the way. I'm gonna go take care of business. He went to the door calmly, knocked, very sweet, very kind, very gentle with her, showed her the court order, blah, blah, blah. I was like trying to see what he was doing. Anyway, he was all calm. He didn't make a big to-do. He didn't threaten, he didn't demand. He gently and carefully went in and reasoned with the person and got the job done. That's the value and the strength of the phlegmatic temperament. And the choleric doesn't know how to do that by nature. We want to kill him. We want to take him down, right? No, it says your melancholy is coming into play. See, I don't have
stronger. The melancholy must be stronger.
Okay, and that's another thing. Thank you for that. No, you're not 50-50. Some people might be 50-50 of your two, but most people, one of them is predominant. Okay, I'm sanguine and choleric. Just in your observation of me in this short time, which do you think is dominant in me?
Sanguine.
It is the choleric.
Ah.
When I take the test, and it's usually about 60%. So yeah. Sometimes my husband goes, can't we see more of the sanguine? Let's take a look at how they control. How sanguines control the situation? By laughing it off. Hello, I know you're rolling your melancholy eyes, I get it. Making light of things, charming and disarming. Oh, come on. Really, that's saying, I don't care. Minimizing problems, offering prizes, throwing a party, being friendly, whining, crying and begging, charming little lies. And again, if you found yourself or others in this, it doesn't mean you're sanguine. But all these together tend to point to the sanguine temperament. Let's look how the phlegmatics control. Avoidance. Passivity. Staying detached and far away. Being late. Being late says what? What are the words that usually go with being late? It's not lazy. What are the words? What are you saying with your actions?
That I'm more important. What I was doing was more important.
What I was doing was more important or just as important, and I don't want to be pushed. And I will get there when I get there. You might not be really thinking that, but that's like software in the background humming. It's what's motivating you. I'm not going to be pushed. And you know what? A lot of people are late to parties, and I'm going to get there, and they should just calm down and chill. Right? Or, here's another one. I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to do that, and I don't manage my time very well because I don't have a calendar. I just want to do all of it, and oh no, the time is coming up, and oh, I'm just going to squeeze one more thing in, one more thing. They have a hard time cutting it off and just saying, you know what, I'll get to that later, I got to go to the party or whatever. So it's a lack of self-discipline. Do all four temperaments have a lack of self-discipline? Yes. That's part of our maturing level, but it shows up in different ways. They're late, they have endless chatter. That's another thing, that to avoid conflict. If I'm always a little talking, yeah, you're laughing, then nobody can say anything mean or offensive or controlling, and I'll just fill up all the empty space and I'll be safe. Finding the easy way out. Okay. Phlegmatics are the world's great inventors because they're always looking for an easier way to do things. I love that. It doesn't mean being lazy, it means looking for easier ways to do things. They control by procrastinating, which is another form of you can't push me, you can't push me. Staying busy with unimportant things. Phlegmatics can work. They can be busy and be working. They can be working all day long and get nothing done because their work sometimes is a distraction. Because they're afraid to do the hard work, they're afraid to do the scary work or whatever it is. Silent treatment and disappearing all completely. Do you know anybody like that? How cholerics control anger or threats of anger. They control by, here, get out of my way, taking over, demanding, yelling, barking orders, cussing, pushing, pulling, hitting, delegating. You do this, you do that. That can be good, that can be not good. They control things by staying organized, and they're always working. Know anybody like that? Let's look at how the melancholies control. Criticism. Snide remarks, ridicule, name-calling, eye-rolling, quiet revenge, exaggerating reality, pushing for perfection, deep drama, moodiness, petulance, guilt, and shame. Even, now, if they're a melancholy choleric and they're in a comfort zone, the nasty will come out. But if they're in a group setting, or, they might just be very sublime. Well, that's very critical. But what did I just say with my body language? Well, that's certainly stupid. Or I would never dress like that. So we've been talking about our strengths this morning. Now we're moving into some of the weaknesses and how again, this is another way of telling how you know, is to take a look at some of your weaknesses. And again, it's your strengths carried to extreme out of fear. Fear you're not going to get your way, fear things are not going to go your way, you're not going to get your needs met. Any questions before we move away from this? I don't want to stay too long on the negative. Are you depressed? We do have two lovely priests here today, this afternoon, who are going to be available to us for confession. And I'm going to prepare you for confession, and I'm going to, based on our temperament. Let's look at gender roles. Okay. Tell me if this is male or female. Gentle, kind, respectful, supportive, patient, attentive, nurturing, healing, peacemaker, calming.
Both.
Either way.
Both. Don't you know a lot of men who are gentle, kind, respectful, supportive, patient? Yes. But oh, look how quickly you all hollered out female, because the culture is trained to say anybody who is this is feminine. That's fine for women, but for men, they get called names because of that. Now let's look at this. Initiator, courageous, bold, fast-acting, high energy, take charge, dynamic, builder, challenging, conquering. Male or female? Okay, good. Here's a beautiful quote. How many of you have ever read anything from Peter Kraft? K-R-E-E-F-T. Yes, he's wonderful. Deep, he's a philosopher, he's Catholic, he has he's melancholy, phlegmatic, he has such depth, it's ridiculous. But his phlegmatic helps him write in a simple, easy to understand manner. So those of us who are not deep philosophers can benefit from the wisdom of the church. Here's what he says: male and female are biological. Masculine and feminine are cosmological. They're much bigger than the body. It's part of God's design that there are things that are by their nature feminine and by their nature masculine, different than male and female. So we can look at the bold, blazing, brilliant, hot, powerful sun and say masculine. And we can look at the dark, mysterious, cool, gentle evening and say that's feminine, if we're going to compare them to each other. Does that make sense? So again, in the realm of strong and powerful masculine, we can have both men and women. In the gentle, mysterious, deep, calm beauty of feminine, we can have both masculine, we can have both male and female. How many of you have a husband who is kind and gentle and sensitive and patient and loving and easygoing? Okay. Right, sometimes. Right. Is he feminine? No. Right. And look at me. Once a therapist told me I was more of a man than most men. And of course I was very proud of that. But then I realized I need to temper that, because that's really not a good thing. I don't need to be more of a man than men. I'm not a man. God didn't make me a man. I don't want to be a man. But I do have a temperament that fits into the cosmological world of masculine. It's very clear, it's very strong, it can be very cold and calculating and not compassionate, but it gets the job done. This is why we have so much sexual identity confusion today. We have teenagers, we have little children who are sensitive, little boys who are sensitive, creative, artistic, quiet. They're not sports oriented, they're not domineering. They're very gentle and kind, and they're drawn to gentle, kind things, and they draw pictures. And parents get worried that they're too much of a girl. And today now, they're saying, back in the old days where father would go, oh, you're being a pussy, you better man up, and, right? Now it's gotten worse, we're gonna give them hormones to change them. Billy wants to be a girl, so let's help him be a girl. Let's cut off his genitals and give him hormones, because then he'll feel good about who he is. This is demonic and horrible. And in the discussion of all this gender confusion, I'm alarmed at the lack of the understanding or even bringing in the subject of temperament. Don't worry about Billy. He's a phlegmatic, melancholy. He's artistic and sensitive. Don't worry, when his testosterone kicks in a few years, he's going to be very manly. Same thing with little girls who are tomboys or barking orders or trying to take